I mean, I didn't go anywhere or went to the police or anything.
Could you stand up, sir? Good. Now, there was a reason that Mr. Hackett was taking you home on the evening of August 18th. You want to tell me what that was, Miss Hackaway?
Yes, I mean, I went out to the bar or whatever, and I just asked him to escort me home because I was afraid.
Afraid of what?
Just afraid of just going home.
Mr. Hackett, she's having a brain trauma right now. She's very hard for her to get it together. Mr. Hackett, would you like, please, sir, to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Hackaway with regard to taking her home that evening?
Yes, she came up to me and she was very distressed. She said that she was afraid that her ex-boyfriend or boyfriend, I don't know, had just gotten released from jail and was harassing her, and she was scared, and that they...
Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, actually it is.
Miss Hackaway, don't play with me. I'm giving you fair warning. Don't play with me. Yeah. So she was afraid the boyfriend was just getting out of jail?
Yes.
What were you in jail for, sir?
Ma'am, I'd been out of jail for quite a while at that
Good.
point.
What had you been out of jail for a long time about?
I'd been got out of prison for assault on a public servant.
What public servant did you assault?
Police officer, ma'am.
Shh, shh. Listen, I don't need any help from you. Now, you assaulted a police officer.
Yes, ma'am, at age 17.
And how long were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated for 5 years and 2 months, flat.
Must have injured the police officer pretty badly. What did you assault the police officer with?
With my foot.
With your foot?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the only time you've been incarcerated, Mr. Shell?
No, ma'am.
Subsequent to getting out of jail, were you incarcerated again?
Since prison?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
For assault.
Who?
On Selawak Way.
When?
That would have been in January of
What date was it, Miss Agaway?
It was last year, January 8th, I think.
So when I asked you, Miss Agaway, whether or not you would have a sort of protective order against him, were you granted a protective order?
No.
So when he was arrested for assault and incarcerated for the assault, I assume that you were injured.
Yes, I was.
How were you injured?
I just had bruises all over my body. Like, well, mainly my arms.
But you forgave him?
Yes, I guess you can say that. Yes, yes.
Who are you?
Corey Schill, Garrett's brother.
Good. Now you can sit down for a minute.
Okay.
So you were escorting Miss Agaway home because she was afraid of Mr. Shell, who had just gotten out of prison and had been incarcerated subsequent to that for assaulting her, which is a very good reason to ask somebody to escort her home. And what happened, Mr. Hackett?
I drove in the car behind her car, and when we arrived at the house, she asked me to walk her to the door. So I helped her out of her car, helped her to the door, and as we were walking up the steps, she screamed, and as I turned around and I got clubbed. I fell on the ground. There was blood everywhere. I was dizzy. He was screaming, "Oh, you're..." Can I say what?
You can tell me anything. At my age, I've heard it all.
I mean, he was saying the equivalent of, "Oh, you're my girl, you're doing this, you're doing that," you know. And as he was, you know, it's kind of a blur of, you know, I was on the ground. Salwa came over to, you know, she was screaming and trying to get him off me. He threw her on the ground, pushed her away. And as I got up, I was very dazed. There was blood all in my eyes. And he was kind of circling me. You know, I've never thrown a punch in my life. And he was circling me, just popping me. So at some point, while I was on the ground, her brother came out of the door and asked what was going on. By that time, Garrett took off. I mean, he went that way towards where Salwa was.
You, over here. Bird, show her these pictures, would you please? Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say that those pictures were taken at the hospital by the crime scene unit, and I had gone home and taken a shower and changed clothes.
Okay.
So that's after the shower.
You've not seen these pictures, sir, have you?
No.
Did you have any idea what he looked like after this attack?
I heard. I have not seen the pictures.
Well, just hand them over to him. Now, according to what I read, at some point you were contacted by Mr. Shell's father.
Yes.
And even though this is hearsay, the whole idea of the conversation was that he would pay you $40,000 if you would not prosecute his son, because his son was already on parole for another assault. I assume that that assault that you were on parole for, sir, was the assault against this young lady here?
No, ma'am.
Was that on the 5-year term for the assault on the police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
So you had a split sentence, you were paroled, you'd served 2/3 of your time?
I had 2 concurrent sentences, and
Why did you have 2 concurrent sentences, Mr. Shell?
I had another sentence for a check that was a day for day. In Texas, you have state jail felonies.
So what you're telling me, you had a prior case involving a check forgery?
A theft by check, yes, ma'am.
So you had a couple of years left to go in the event that you had a problem.
After I made parole, I had to
You had to stay clean.
Yes, ma'am.
But you were arrested again for the assault on the lovely Miss Agaway over here, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And they didn't violate you on your original parole when you were arrested for assaulting Miss Agaway.
No, ma'am.
I find that curious. Did you have a trial with regard to the assault on Miss Agaway?
Yes, ma'am.
And she testified.
Yes, ma'am.
And you testified that he assaulted you?
Yes, I did.
And they didn't believe you?
They found him guilty on one charge.
They did. And what was that charge, Miss Agaway?
It was just for the assault, but there was 3 charges on there.
The lovely Miss Agaway says that you were found guilty on one of those charges, Mr. Shell.
Ma'am, I was not found guilty on an assault. I was found guilty on a domestic dispute
After a trial.
after a 2-day trial. And I beat the cases.
No, you didn't beat them, sir. You were found guilty of domestic dispute.
I was,
According to her, one of the charges of assault, according to you, was a domestic dispute.